Hello and welcome to another episode of the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. Earlier today, I did a video in which I highlighted Angel Reese's interview with WNBA legend Lisa Leslie, whom she had on her podcast, Unapologetically Angel. I talked about Lisa Leslie's comments about how she could fix and would love to work with Angel Reese so that she could fix Angel Reese's layup problem. I also said that I was going to do another video because there was something else I wanted to get into. So here we are. I'm going to get into it. Now, I got to say right away, I already know that there are going to be people who are going to push back on what I have to say. Some people may be offended at what I have to say. Some people straight up are not going to like what I have to say. And some people are probably going to maybe call me names about what I have to say. But I'm going to say what I got to say because I believe it's true. Now, while I said earlier that there were aspects of that interview that I thought showed some wisdom from Lisa Leslie, I also said there were aspects of that interview that I felt were unwise. Words Lisa Leslie said that really speak to a cultural issue that really needs to be addressed. So here I am. I'm ready to address it. Lisa Leslie dropped some information. She said this was the first time she was sharing that information. It came when Angel Reese asked her a question. So let's first listen to the question.
The people want to know, though, will you ever be a head coach for a WNBA team?
So there's the question. People want to know if you would ever be a head coach for a WNBA team. Once again, we're talking about Lisa Leslie, who won 2 championships, won multiple MVPs, all-star, 4-time Olympian, all that. Okay, Lisa Leslie. And people want to know, fair question, will you ever be a coach? And then Lisa Leslie dropped some information that she says she didn't tell anybody before. And she decides to let it go right here on Angel Reese podcast. Check it out.
You know what? I'm going to say this for the first time. I put my name in the hat to coach this year for 2 teams, all the way down to the end. I won't say who those 2 teams are, but I did not get
The job.
picked. And I felt like I would never make another attempt to go into coaching
Really?
in the WNBA. Yes, because it's like you got to be 10 times as great as a Black woman in this industry.
There's only one left, I
And
think. One left.
when I tell you that who these people hired is not better than me and what I could do for this team and players, but it's okay because I, again, am a very much that what's for you is for you.
Yes.
And that's not for me. And I'm okay with that. So I will never attempt to coach in the WNBA again. Period. I moved on. And I got new contracts.
Paper's still coming.
Let's go.
The news was that she tried to coach 2 teams in the WNBA for this coming season. And she said she got all the way to the end. So that means she moved through the process and she did not get the jobs. Now, I'm sure that's disappointing when you're going for a job, whether it's coaching, whether it's teaching, whether it's acting, whether it's construction work or whatever it is. You're going for a job, you don't get the job, you're disappointed. And then when you go through the process and get to the end and you don't get the job, you're disappointed. One thing to be disappointed. But notice what Lisa Leslie said.
Because, it's like you got to be 10 times as great as a Black woman in this industry.
There's only one left, I
And
think. One left.
when I tell you that
This is where I have an issue. And this is where some people are not going to like what I have to say. They'll throw names out there, etc. Be that as it may. You go for the job like everyone else. You did not get the job. And your takeaway from that is, as a Black woman in this industry, you have to be 10 times better. So, in other words, the people in these two teams, which credit to her, she did not blast out who they were, which is great because she basically called them racist and or sexist because they didn't hire her. Now, when I first heard this piece of the interview, I thought, like many of you may think, wow, Lisa Leslie applied for 2 jobs in the WNBA and didn't get the jobs. Lisa Leslie, such a great player. Yeah, of course they're going to think that because it's Lisa Leslie. But she didn't stop there, right? She was a great player. Like, wow, I was a great player. I would think that I would get the job. No, it has to be because I'm a Black woman in this industry. As a Black woman, I didn't get the job. Really? And this is the cultural rot that we have, because it's always about the color of my skin or that I'm a woman. And in a situation like this, my guess is that I'm going to tell you what 2 teams I think that she applied for, but in one of them, you can't really say that it's because you're Black, because a Black person was hired. And you have to say it was because you're a woman. And the other one, it was a woman, but because it's a woman, you can't say it's just because you're a woman. So now you got to say because it's Black. So you put that together and you got to say I'm a Black woman. And that's the reason why I didn't get the job. It's dangerous and unwise to throw that out there unless you have evidence. Not getting hired for a job is not evidence that the reason you didn't get the job is because you're a Black woman. But see, the problem in our culture is that to a large extent, we have embraced a victim mentality, and it's parents' fault, truthfully, because parents often teach that. I mean, when you're Black, you hear that when you're growing up. The saying was, you have to work twice as hard to get half as far. And I understand that there are parents who want to prepare their children for the real world, but sometimes that world is just in your head. And what you do is you plant seeds of a victim mentality inside people, of victimhood. You plant seeds of inferiority, or you plant seeds that every time things don't go your way, it's because you're Black or it's because you're a woman. And honestly, it's not right. It's not fair. And what you're saying about those 2 organizations without any evidence is it's just low, but it has become the norm. Perhaps, imagine this, they looked at credentials and decided that this wasn't the way they wanted to go. This is the WNBA. You're going to have a hard time telling me that they are trying to do Black people wrong in the WNBA, that the people who are hiring for these positions just don't embrace Black people. Again, the WNBA. So it's just, and here's the other part, the hypocrisy of this. The hypocrisy of this is that she then went on to say that she was a strong believer, and she talked about this early in the interview, that basically what's for me is for me, what's not for me is not for me. Let's look again at how she said that, and then I'm going to tell you why this is absolutely hypocritical.
I tell you that who these people hired is not better than me and what I could do for this team and players. But it's okay, because I, again, am a very much that what's for you is for you.
Yes.
And that's not for me. And I'm okay with that. So I will never.
Here's the hypocrisy. What's for you is for you. And that wasn't for me. So I'm okay with that. So how does that work? You didn't get hired because you're a Black woman, but you're a believer, as you said there and earlier in the interview, that what's for you is for you. It can't be both, Lisa Leslie. You could not have been denied these jobs because you're a Black woman, and at the same time, it wasn't for you. Because I know Lisa Leslie is a woman of faith. And so she talked in this interview even about, being very prayerful. So as a prayerful woman, she knows that God doesn't withhold anything good. He opens doors that no man can close. He closes doors that no man can open. So either the door was closed because it was not for you, or it was because, according to you, you're a Black woman. You can't have been denied the job simply based on some kind of ism, and at the same time, it wasn't for you anyway. It can't be both. It sort of reminds me of when I was very vocal about what Caitlin Clark said when she was awarded Time Magazine Athlete of the Year. She said that, hey, understand, I've worked for everything I've received, and yet at the same time, as a white person, I have privilege. I said then and I say now, it cannot be both. You cannot say I worked hard for absolutely everything that I have received, and at this other in a flash you say, but I have white privilege, and so there's that too. It's not both. You either worked for everything, you haven't earned it, or you have white privilege. It's not both. And so for Lisa Leslie, you either have people who didn't hire you because you're a Black woman, or it wasn't for you. It cannot be both. So we need to stop throwing those things out there. It's irresponsible, it's unfair, and does it even line up to facts? Just because you're Lisa Leslie, just because you were a great player, does not mean that you're the best person for either of these jobs. In fact, historically, great players do not make great coaches. I don't buy into it having to be that way. I'm just saying, because I remember hearing Nancy Lieberman Klein. She was one person I heard talk about this, and she said she had refused to believe that because she was a great player, she couldn't also be a great coach. So I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying I'm not saying it has to be the case. I'm saying that there's some history involved in that. So if I'm hiring, I want to have the best person for the job. And one of the things that Lisa Leslie might want to consider is that this is a different dynamic we're dealing with here. There are more eyeballs on women's basketball on the WNBA than there ever has been, and certainly more than she experienced as a player. So I'm not surprised if these teams said, we want the absolute best person for the job. We want people who have had years of coaching experience. And Lisa Leslie, well, her coaching experience is with the big three. That is not coaching in the WNBA. That is not coaching 5-on-5 basketball. That is not coaching women's 5-on-5 professional basketball. It's not. And so it wouldn't surprise me if people who have not coached, not necessarily in the WNBA completely, always, totally in the WNBA, but have had some head coaching experience of 5-on-5 regular basketball. And with the eyeballs on it, nobody wants to find out that they've got another Teresa Weatherspoon on their hands. That probably hasn't helped either. And they said, this is the moment that we have got to have the best person for the job. And maybe she wasn't the best person for the job. Is it possible? Could that possibly be? Does it have to be because you're a woman? Does it have to be because you're Black? Could it possibly be that these people said, we're going to base this on merit? Remember that. We're going to base this on merit. We're going to treat you like everybody else, and we're going to pick the best candidate without feeling like we have to pick you because you're a woman, or we have to pick you because you're Black, or we have to pick you because you played great basketball, but we don't know what you're going to do in this moment in history where eyeballs are peeled. We don't know how you're going to fare, and we're just not willing to take that chance. Okay, just throwing that out there. To me, that's a responsible mindset and not the victimhood mentality. Now, let's talk about who the two teams are. I believe that those two teams that she applied for, and I don't know, I absolutely don't know, total speculation. My guess is, number one, she wanted to coach in Los Angeles. After all, the Los Angeles Sparks needed another coach. She went to USC. She's from California, and she won championships with the Los Angeles Sparks. Seems to me that's likely that she applied for that position. The other place I believe she likely applied for is Chicago Sky. Not that I can understand why anybody would go there, but she has been clear, even in that interview, see my last video, that she really wants to help Angel Reese, that she said, I can't wait to work with you again. And she said there that, and you look at those other people who got the job, and I can tell you I was so much better. I would be so much better for the teams and for the players, because Angel Reese is one who came into the league, a lot of eyeballs following her over from college, from her social media presence or whatever. And she didn't have a great first year, in terms of rebounding, etc. But like Lisa Leslie said, I could really help you with the layup. So there's a lot to be worked on there. She really wants to work on it. She's already said that. So I find it hard to believe that she would not have gone for that job. So let's take a look at who those two teams hired for the job. In other words, let's look at their coaching experience. So I'll start over here at WNBA.com with Los Angeles Sparks News when they hired Lynn Roberts as the head coach. Just going to go through some of her experience here. It talks about her being a California native. She brings 27 seasons of collegiate women's college experience, including the past 18 as a Division I head coach. Okay. She recently has coached for the past 9 seasons in Utah and has led them to 3 consecutive NCAA tournament berths and was 2023 Pac-12 Coach of the Year. Okay, so there's a whole lot of experience from this woman, right? So she led her team in Utah to the Sweet 16 in 2023, won the Pac-12 regular season championship. Her team spent 40 consecutive weeks ranked in the top 25, 14 straight weeks in the top 10, ranking as high as number 2 in the nation. Talks about attendance skyrocketing. And again, attendance is a big thing. And she has increased attendance from 594 to 7,209. Okay, so, and it tells some of the players she's coached. Okay, so again, the past 3 seasons, Roberts' team, her teams have displayed historic efficiency, ranking number 1 in the nation in field goal attempts from beyond the arc, at the rim, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, so you get it, right? She has quite the resume. I'm not even going through all of it. I'll put the link in the description of this channel. So that is whom the Los Angeles Sparks hired. Lynn Roberts. Now we're over at WNBA.com news for the Chicago Sky when Chicago named Tyler Marsh as head coach. So what about him? What about his coaching experience? Well, it talks about his work ethic, deep understanding of the game. Now, of course, I don't doubt that, Lisa Leslie has an incredible work ethic and a deep understanding of the game. But again, this is about coaching, right? Right. So it talks about him having a plethora of coaching experience as the franchise's 9th coach in history, the Chicago history. He spent the past 2 seasons as assistant coach and head of player development with the Las Vegas Aces, helping to lead the team to back-to-back WNBA championships and 22 and 23, and a Commissioner's Cup championship win in 2022. Right? In 3 seasons on the Aces coaching staff under Becky Hammond, he helped coach the Aces to 3 straight playoff berths from 22 to 24. Now, before that, he had a similar role as an assistant coach in the NBA with Indiana Pacers from 20 to 22 under Rick Carlisle. Okay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Now, before Indiana, he won an NBA championship under head coach Nick Nurse in 2019 as the Toronto Raptors assistant video coordinator, player development coach. And he coached in the D League, and which is now the G League. And we could go on. There's plenty of qualifications that he has. So it's not like these teams, and again, I don't know what the two teams are. I don't know. I'm totally speculating here, but I think this is a quite an educated guess here, right? Either way, it still applies. These two have coaching experience. You can go through and look at the other coaches who were hired, and you can see what kind of experience they have. And if the teams have put out a notice that one of the qualifications that the person has to have, the candidate has to have, is that they can't be a woman and they can't be black, then we got a case here. But if you're just speculating and saying, oh, you got to be 10 times better if your black person is just casting aspersions on two organizations, whichever two they are, I just showed you those two because I think that's common sense. And I just wanted to show you the experience that they have. Lisa Leslie was a great player, but her coaching experience is, as far as I know, only the big three. And that ain't 5-on-5 basketball. And so if you made it through the whole process and they didn't select you, then instead of just pointing your finger and saying, oh, girl, I was better than them. How do we know that you're better than them? How do they know? I don't know how you performed in the interview. Considering the way you carry yourself and the way you communicate, I imagine that you presented yourself well, but maybe you didn't give the answers they wanted to hear. And then maybe at the end of the day, they decided to go with experience because this is a big time in the league. This is a big time for women's basketball. And we want someone qualified who has been in there and had experience at some level. And both these, whether it was collegiate or in the NBA or WNBA, they have experience, not just coaching, but being a part of teams that have won. And now is maybe not the time to figure out Lisa Leslie was a great player who flopped as a coach. You may consider that unfair. Call it unfair if that's what you think. We don't know. We're speculating. But let's just say they really, really just wanted the best person for the job. And let's just say perhaps that wasn't Lisa Leslie. Maybe in a merit-based society, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. Either way, you just said what's for you is for you. What's not is not. Let's stick to that instead of going the racism, sexism route. It is so old and tired. Okay, let me do the obligatory statement. Yes, I know that racism still exists. And yes, I know sexism still exists. I do not believe it's under every tree. And I do not believe that every time something doesn't go right, we have to resort to that. When we do that, as a culture, we trivialize, we minimize, and frankly, we water down the situations where there really are sexism and racism issues. And then nobody believes us because we cried wolf one too many times. Sorry, Lisa Leslie didn't get the job. I'm sorry that she says she'll never go for that again. But that doesn't mean that whatever those two organizations were, it doesn't mean you have the right to try to paint them as people who didn't hire you because you weren't 10 times better than everyone else as a Black woman. Sorry, not buying it. Anyway, like I said, there are going to be people who are not going to like what I have to say. She's a coon. She's an Aunt Jemima. All I'm saying is that bring the proof. If you have the proof, bring the proof. It is not on me to prove that they're not racist or sexist. It's on you to prove that they are if you're going to throw out that accusation. I believe Lisa Leslie is a positive role model, was a great player, understands the game. And so as she moves forward, if there's another job she wants, then you go for that job. But nobody owes it to you. And just because you didn't get it doesn't mean it was because they were bad people. Just saying. All right, I'm done. I said what I had to say. Bring it. Bring it. Bring it. And if you can tell me that they were absolutely racist and whatever, then we'll say then that's the case. But just throwing it out there, and then the kids hear it and they throw it out there. I worked in the schools. I was a teacher for nearly 20 years. Oh, she just racist. Well, why? She ain't let me go to the bathroom. Okay, maybe she know you just gonna be wandering around the hallway. Why she got to be a racist? I know how it goes, but we plant these seeds into people and we wonder why the culture is the way it is in terms of this mindset that is rampant. It's time to move on and call out the real stuff. And I'll call it out. I'll call it out when it's real. I'm not going to call it out when it's just fabricated or when you just throw it out there every time you don't get your way. All right. This is Adrienne of the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you've not done so already. And I will catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly.